someone who is making any or all three of these arguments, you will need to address the presupposition that many pro-choice people hold. Consent to sex is not consent to pregnancy. You should respond to this assumption with what pro-life philosophers sometimes call the responsibility objection. This objection states that when you have consensual sex, you engage in an act that you know might result in the creation of an inherently needy child to whom you owe compensation. In recent years, there has been an increase in education surrounding sexual consent. It is a vital issue for our culture right now, and we can all agree that everyone needs to understand what does and does not qualify as consent to sex. One thing in particular has been given emphasis in this education, and it's the idea that consent to sex is ongoing. In other words, a person has the right to say no at any time during sexual contact and end that interaction at any point. We should always respect someone else's no and immediately take it very seriously, regardless of whatever has been happening. I've seen some pro-choice advocates take this conceptualization of ongoing consent to sex and try to apply it to pregnancy. They say that pregnancy, like sex, also requires ongoing consent, and that the woman should be able to withdraw consent from it at any point in time. The problem with this thinking is that pregnancy is being talked about like it is an action instead of an effect. When you consent to actions, you are also consenting to that action's consequences, even if you consider them to be undesirable. And when they talk this way, I also hear them express incredible frustration at the biological asymmetry between men and women in childbearing. They might say, if a man can have sex and then just walk away if the woman gets pregnant, then why shouldn't she have an out too? The whole thing just seems unfair. And it seems like they see abortion as a way to level out the biological imbalance of the sex contract. I don't find this sentiment very convincing because everyone having consensual sex knows that this is the way the world works before they consent to the sex. Let me give an example to show why ongoing consent can't apply to consequences. If you go to a casino, you probably already know that the house always wins. Still, there's a chance you can use a little money to win a lot, especially if you put your chips on a single number in roulette. In case you're unfamiliar with the game, in roulette, you bet on a table to indicate where you think the ball will land. The more specific you are with your bet, the more money you can win. If you bet on a single number, you get a 35-1 on your bet amount if the ball lands there. So you place your chips on number 15 to show you consent to the bet on that spin of the wheel. If the ball lands on 18, that's bad news for you. You lose your money. But imagine saying, wait, I gave initial consent to bet my money, but I never gave consent to lose it, only to win. Now that I see where the game ended, I withdraw my consent. Give me my chips back. In real life, the pit boss would probably have security throw you out of the casino for trying to grab at your chips. But if they were going to be patient enough to explain the situation to you, they might say something like, you gave your consent to the bet. You could have withdrawn it any time before bets were closed. But you knew that the nature of the bet is you are likely to lose money, not just win it. And that's the thing you consented to. You can't just change the rules because you didn't get the outcome you wanted. This is similar to sex. You consent to the act knowing what the possible outcomes are, and you could have withdrawn consent at any point. You can't now refuse to consent to the outcome because it's not what you wanted. But what about the biological asymmetry in pregnancy? What about the fact that guys can leave and women can't? Well, let's change the previous scenario. I'm betting at the roulette wheel along with my boyfriend. The table has a rule in place where men are allowed to pick up their chips after the wheel has spun, and both of us know about this rule. We both let it ride on 27, but it comes up 0. My boyfriend picks up his chips and leaves the table. He doesn't lose anything, but I lose my entire bet. That's not fair, I say to the operator. He says to me, of course it's not fair, but this is a casino. It's not supposed to be fair. You knew all about this before you placed your bet. The pit boss is sympathetic to me though, and he tells me that I can get my money back if I kill one of the other players at the table. I knew the game was unfair and that the man could walk away, and I played anyway. It would be wrong for me to kill another person at the casino to avoid the consequence of the bet I consented to. Similarly, everyone knows the man can walk away if the woman gets pregnant. It's not fair, but it was known when the consent for sex took place. It's part of what was consented to, and it's not a sufficient justification to kill another person. We need to hold men accountable for their actions and start enforcing child support laws the way they should be, not kill our own children because he walked away.
If you enjoyed this video and you want to learn more about these arguments, you want to go a little bit more advanced and you want more details, Josh and I just finished recording a podcast on the same topic where we go into the second version of the argument when people might say that consent to sex is not consent to pregnancy. So go listen to the episode if you want to learn more.